It started like any ordinary Monday morning in downtown Fort Worth. The lobby of Halberg International buzzed with activity, heels clicking on tile, voices echoing across the glass walls, the smell of fresh coffee floating in the air as employees rushed in, glued to their phones, talking deadlines and meetings. Nobody paid much attention to the cleaning crew. They never really did. It wasn't out of disrespect, just routine. People got used to the janitors being part of the background, quietly doing their job, blending in like furniture or elevator music. But this Monday, something happened that no one in the building would forget. Jonathan Kellerman, the CEO of Halberg International, was on his usual morning walk from the parking garage to the 18th floor executive suite. He wasn't in a rush. He never was. At 52, Kellerman had mastered the art of composed leadership, tailored suit, black coffee in hand, and that calm air of someone who always seemed to know more than he let on. But that morning, just as he passed the touchscreen lobby directory, he heard something that made him stop mid-step. Mandarin, fluent, clear, and smooth. Spoken with the confidence of someone who'd grown up in it. Kellerman hadn't heard that kind of accent since his last business trip to Shanghai, and it caught him completely off guard. He turned his head, expecting to see one of the company's international reps maybe, or someone visiting from overseas. Instead, he saw a woman in a burgundy janitor's uniform standing next to a confused older man in a navy jacket. She was gently gesturing toward the elevators, explaining something in perfect Mandarin, her tone calm and reassuring. Kellerman blinked, unsure if he'd heard right. He'd seen her before. Late nights, walking the halls, head down, cleaning quietly. Always polite, always invisible, but now, she wasn't invisible anymore. Before he could approach, she turned and faced a delivery man holding a clipboard. Without skipping a beat, she switched to Spanish. Not a few words, not broken phrases. Fluent Spanish. A moment later, she addressed a vendor nearby in effortless French, pointing out mislabeled boxes with a faint smile like it was the most normal thing in the world. Kellerman was stunned. 3 languages in less than 3 minutes. By a janitor? He slowly stepped forward and asked the woman a simple question. That was Mandarin, right? She turned to him, surprised but composed. Yes, sir. He kept asking. Spanish? French? She nodded, and then casually added that she also spoke Portuguese, German, Arabic, Italian, Swahili, and read Latin too. 9 languages. Kellerman just stared at her, trying to process what he'd just heard. 9 languages. And she worked on the janitorial staff. Her name was Denise Atwater. He asked if she could spare a few minutes and invited her to his office. She hesitated, not out of fear but caution. People like her didn't usually get invited to the 18th floor. Still, she agreed. They rode the elevator in silence. Then, halfway up, she spoke again. I've worked here 13 years. She said. Never thought I'd be invited up. Kellerman gave a quiet smile. You might be surprised how fast things can change. But even he had no idea how much was about to change, for both of them. Inside the executive office, Denise told him her story, how she'd grown up in Ohio, earned a scholarship to study linguistics, and was halfway through her master's degree when her mother got sick. How she dropped everything to take care of her, lost her father soon after, and ended up raising a daughter alone with no support, no time for school, just survival. So she worked, grocery stores, nursing homes, whatever kept the lights on. And eventually she ended up cleaning floors at Halberg, but she never stopped learning. She taught herself languages from books, audio tapes, newspapers. She practiced every day, reading aloud while cleaning offices, memorizing new words between shifts, translating articles just to stay sharp. Nobody ever noticed, nobody asked, until now. Kellerman sat across from her, listening, not interrupting, not judging, just listening. It wasn't pity he felt. It was guilt. All those years managing international operations, hiring expensive translators, flying in consultants, and right here 2 floors below him, The most qualified person for global affairs had been emptying trash cans and wiping down desks. She wasn't asking for anything. Not a promotion, not a raise, just telling her truth. And, in that moment, something shifted in him. He thanked her and walked her back downstairs. But the conversation stayed with him. That afternoon, he came looking for her again. A last-minute translation issue came up. Brazilian clients had arrived early, and their translator had canceled. Kellerman asked Denise if she could step in. She agreed without blinking. In the meeting room, Denise switched into Portuguese like she'd been born speaking it. The tension in the room melted. Jokes were shared. Misunderstandings were cleared. Deals moved forward. When it was over, one of the Brazilian executives turned to Kellerman and said, "She's better than any interpreter we've worked with this year." "Where did you find her?" Kellerman smiled. "Right here." But what happened next? No one expected. Because Kellerman didn't just thank Denise. He made a decision that left the entire office stunned. A decision that would challenge the company's culture, shake up old assumptions, and inspire a wave of reactions. Some supportive, some not. And it all started with 9 words spoken by someone no one had been listening to. So what did Kellerman do? And how did the office react when a janitor was suddenly given a seat at the executive table? That's what we'll uncover in the next part of this story. But just remember this. Never assume you know who someone is based on their job title or uniform, because sometimes the person pushing the mop might just be the most brilliant mind in the building. The news spread faster than the elevators could carry it. By the next morning, almost everyone in the building had heard. Denise Atwater, the janitor who spoke 9 languages, had been pulled into a high-level meeting by the CEO himself. Some called it impressive. Others were confused. A few were flat-out skeptical, but no one could ignore it. The office buzzed with whispers. In the marketing department, 2 assistants leaned over their cubicles. "Is it true?" one asked. "She's getting a promotion?" The other shrugged. "That's what I heard. CEO picked her out personally." In HR, a manager scrolled through her emails twice, checking for official word. None yet, just gossip. But it was enough to make people stare when Denise walked by in her usual janitor's uniform, pushing her cart past polished desks and glass doors. She felt the eyes on her but kept her head down. Same shift, same tasks. Nothing had changed yet, but Kellerman was already thinking 10 steps ahead. That afternoon, he called a meeting with HR, legal, and the executive team. His idea was simple. Create a new position for Denise, cultural liaison, for international affairs. The company had been struggling with miscommunication in global offices for years. Missed opportunities, contracts delayed over translation errors, misunderstood cultural cues that cost them deals. And here was someone already within the company who could fix that, not just with language but with understanding. Not everyone in the room agreed. Victor, the head of international operations, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "She has no formal training, no degree, no corporate experience. Are we really handing over international communication to someone who last week was scrubbing conference rooms?" Kellerman didn't flinch. "She's the only one who made our Brazilian partners laugh yesterday. That wasn't in a textbook, that was connection." Still, the doubt lingered. Denise was officially offered the role the next day. A modest office on the 12th floor, a new badge, a new email. But her first step into that office felt like walking onto a different planet. The walls were painted a soft cream. A clean desk. A small plant in the corner. Nothing fancy, but to her, it was surreal. That didn't mean it was easy. On her first day, Victor walked in without knocking, clipboard in hand. Didn't shake her hand. Didn't smile. "You're the new liaison?" he asked, voice sharp. Denise stayed calm. "That's what I've been told." He handed her a stack of files. "Reports from Italy, contracts from Dubai, a vendor issue in São Paulo. Think you can handle that?" "I'll need a few hours to review, but yes." He left without another word. It wasn't just Victor. Denise could feel the tension in the break room, in elevators, in the halls. Some co-workers smiled politely, others avoided her. A few openly questioned her role, in private chats, in passive-aggressive comments. This place is turning into a reality show, someone muttered. First she's mopping floors, now she's leading meetings. Denise didn't argue. She didn't have time. Instead, she went to work. She translated contracts, fixed gaps in vendor communication, sent feedback to local teams in their own languages. Slowly, the tide started to shift, but not fast enough for everyone. Late Thursday afternoon, she got a message to meet with Eleanor Craig, a senior board member who had flown in from Dallas. Eleanor had a reputation, sharp tongue, sharper opinions. Denise walked into the small conference room on the 17th floor and found Eleanor sitting at the head of the table, a folder open in front of her. "Sit," she said, not looking up. Denise sat, silent. Eleanor didn't waste time. "You have no degree, no certifications, and until last week you were working custodial shifts. Why should we trust you to represent us internationally?" Denise didn't blink. "Because I speak the languages, because I understand the cultures, and because I've already cleared 2 vendor disputes and helped move a deal forward in Morocco." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "You think this company should run on instinct?" "No," Denise replied. "I think it should run on results. And I've delivered." There was a long silence. Then Eleanor leaned back. "You're a gamble." "I've been a gamble my whole life," Denise said. "That hasn't stopped me yet." The meeting ended without a handshake. Denise stepped outside, her breath caught somewhere between her chest and throat. She didn't go back to her office. Instead, she walked out of the building and crossed the street, sat on a bench and stared at the tower she now worked in. All those years she had walked past it in silence. Now she was inside, but not everyone welcomed her. She called her daughter. Just hearing her laugh was enough to steady her. No one knew how many battles Denise had already fought to get here. This was just another one. By the next morning, word of the meeting had spread. People expected her to keep quiet, maybe even step back, but Denise didn't flinch. She came in early, gave a team briefing, took a call from the German office without a translator, and walked through the building with her head held high. On the whiteboard outside her office, someone had written in black marker, "We see you." No name. Just 3 words that meant everything. She wasn't just doing her job anymore, she was changing how people saw their jobs. Interns came to her for advice. Junior staff asked how to improve their pitch decks. She helped translate onboarding materials, taught basic greetings in different languages to teams heading abroad, not because she had to, because she could. And still there were whispers. This is all for show. She's just a diversity stunt. But Kellerman saw the numbers. He saw the progress. And more than that, he saw the culture starting to shift. Quietly, he asked her if she wanted to help build a new program. A training path for internal workers, especially those in non-desk roles. A way to discover more voices like hers. She smiled. "I already started one. Just needed someone to believe in it." But what no one knew yet, what even Denise hadn't seen coming, was that not everyone was ready for the change she brought. And someone, somewhere in that tower, was already planning a way to push back. It didn't take long for the pushback to show its face. Just 1 week after Denise's new role started gaining traction, a quiet email began making its rounds. Anonymous complaints sent to the board. No direct accusations, just pointed questions. Is this position even necessary? What qualifications does she really have? What message are we sending by skipping traditional promotion paths? Most of it came from people who had never spoken to her. People who didn't know her story, only her title, and didn't like how fast it had changed. One morning, Kellerman walked into his office and found a sealed envelope on his desk. Inside was a short letter from a group of senior staff members. It urged him to reconsider the direction of internal hiring practices and protect the company's image from experimental decisions. It was cold, impersonal, and carefully worded to sound professional, but the message was clear. Not everyone wanted Denise to stay. He didn't reply. Not with a letter anyway. Instead, he doubled down. That week, Denise was invited to present at the quarterly leadership meeting. It wasn't just a speech, it was a statement. Everyone important would be in the room: board members, division heads, top clients dialing in. The pressure was enormous. Denise sat in her office the night before, reading her notes by lamplight. Her daughter called to check on her, and Denise admitted she was nervous. Not about the presentation, but what it stood for. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who had ever been underestimated. Everyone who had been told they were too quiet, too different, too ordinary to be worth noticing. The next morning, she walked into the meeting room dressed in a navy blazer. No script in hand, just steady eyes and a calm voice. She began not with numbers or strategies, but a story. She told them about her first night on the job, cleaning the very room she was now speaking in. How she used to read Spanish newspapers on her breaks to stay sharp. How she helped her daughter with homework while listening to German audiobooks in the background. How she had waited 13 years, not for a handout, but for someone to look her in the eye and ask what she could actually do. She paused, then she spoke in Arabic, then Portuguese, then French. Not to show off, but to show that understanding the world starts with speaking its language. By the time she finished, the room was silent, not awkward, but stunned. Then came the applause. It wasn't loud or forced. It was real. Even Eleanor Craig, who had questioned her weeks earlier, gave a respectful nod. When the meeting ended, Denise stepped outside and exhaled. Not relief. Release. Later that week, a second change was announced. The internal training program she and Kellerman had discussed, now officially named Voice Inside, was launching with full support. It would allow custodial workers, receptionists, cafeteria staff, and more to access mentorship, language classes, and career development resources. Denise would lead it. Applications poured in. People who had once walked the halls in silence were now asking to be heard. And they were. In the break room, someone had written a new note on the bulletin board. Talent has no title. Even Victor, the skeptical international operations head, stopped by Denise's office with a quiet, "You handled that meeting well." It wasn't praise, it was respect. And for Denise, that meant more. The final piece came on a Tuesday. Kellerman called her into his office. She expected another task, another meeting. Instead, he handed her a framed plaque. Inside was her original janitor badge, mounted above, her new nameplate. Denise Atwater, Cultural Liaison, International Affairs Founder, Voice Inside Program. He looked at her. "You said something in your presentation that stuck with me." She smiled. "Which part?" "That people don't need permission to matter." Denise looked down at the plaque, then back at him. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. Kellerman shook his head. "You made it impossible not to." That night, Denise walked through the lobby, not in uniform, not pushing a cart, but still, carrying everything that got her there. Not shame, not bitterness, just quiet pride. She stopped by the touchscreen directory where it all began. A new line had been added under the executive staff. D. Atwater, Cultural Liaison. She touched the screen gently, then walked on. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't walking past anything. She was walking toward something, and for anyone who had ever been overlooked, forgotten, or pushed to the side, her story stood as proof. Brilliance has no dress code. Hard work speaks every language. And sometimes the person who changes everything isn't the loudest in the room. It's the one who never stopped showing up. Denise Atwater did. And she's just getting started.